The FPL template. The FPL game has been out for a week now. So today I'm going to take you through who the most popular players in the game are, whether you should be owning him, whether you should potentially be going away from what people are deciding to do. The key question, of course, is does it include Erling Haaland, 15 million for him, or are people opting to go elsewhere with their budget in the likes of Cole Palmer, in the likes of Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, and Mohamed Salah in their midfield? Today we're going through the first draft template. What is up, everyone? Harry here. Before we dive in, 1,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And today we are having a look at the template at the moment going into game week 1. What are the first drafts looking like across the game that are you all picking? We're actually going to go through 2 drafts because there is a very decisive or dividing player that we've got in the game at the moment, and that is Erling Haaland. Effectively, we have 2 templates forming. One for the people going without Erling Haaland, which is about 66% of the game, so about 2/3 of the game going without Erling Haaland and opting for a very similar team in that sense. And then you've got about a third of the game going for the Haaland template, going for a similar draft, looking without Erling Haaland in their team. So we're going to go through the 2 drafts. We're then going to compare the differences and have a look at some predictive points about whether we think going with Haaland or going without Haaland is going to be the best idea going into the start of the season. So we're going to start off with the most popular team, and that is the non-Haaland draft. 66% of you, so 2/3 of the game, are opting to go without the big man at 15 million, despite that Ipswich at home fixture in game week 2. In goal, most people are opting for a 4.5 goalkeeper along with a 4.0 goalkeeper. There's very little sort of conclusion at the moment about which 4.5 million goalkeeper people are going to go with. Jordan Pickford is actually the most highly owned at about 20%, but I don't imagine people will end up on him. Flecken is the most popular 4.5 million goalkeeper that we've got at the moment. A lot of people are saying, though, they are waiting for the Chelsea goalkeeper to be announced, both of which are 4.5 at the moment. They're also being linked with other goalkeepers at other clubs who are likely to be priced at 4.5 million as well. So at the moment, there's no real template goalkeeper. I've got Sanchez in my team at the moment. Flecken has a bit of ownership. Someone like Areola does as well. Turner is currently the most popular 4.0, but he's unlikely to get any minutes in the Nottingham Forest team. He did get some points last year as he did start the season with them, but there are no real 4.0 goalkeepers that we can be picking at the moment. Into defense, there is really a template forming now across both drafts, which is one premium defender at about 6 million, and then lots of 4.5 options and a 4 million option. Gvardiol, Saliba and Trent all rotating around that premium spot. If you have the money to go up to Trent, people are going there. I really like potentially going with Andrew Robertson, but Gvardiol and Saliba are the most popular. Now, Saliba has slightly higher ownership than Gvardiol, but a lot of the auto-pick teams are putting Saliba in, and I do think looking at the drafts, you're sending me on Twitter that I'm seeing on YouTube as well, Gvardiol is the template pick that people are going with. Despite the Chelsea fixture in game week 1, the fixtures after that are really nice. We know about the Ipswich fixture in match in game week 2 as well. Into the 4.5 options, the top 3 popular ones we've got are Konza, Mikalenko and Dan Burn. The Crystal Palace options in Mark Gahey and Anderson are popular as well. The only issue with them is they kind of split the ownership, so neither of them in particular are in the template. But if you sort of had the Crystal Palace defence as a whole, you probably would have one of those in the template. So those are the 4 sort of 4.5 million defenders that people are going with. All are really nice picks. There is a strong rumour that we might see Kieran Trippier leave Newcastle before the end of the transfer window, which would mean that Livramento at 4.5 million would suddenly become very, very popular. So keep an eye on that because he will be in everyone's teams at 4.5 million for the start of the season if Trippier does leave. Howard Bellis at Southampton is the 4.0 option just because his price came out slightly earlier. The opening fixtures are not bad, but I probably would end up with Johnson at Ipswich just because he's a little bit more attacking, or if there is a potential Barco option at Brighton based on the Estupiñán injury in pre-season. So this is pretty template. A lot of people are going with one premium option, as I said, and then the 4.5 million rotation. Into midfield, so of course, this is the non-Haaland version of this draft. We start off with Mo Salah, who's actually in both drafts. He's one of the most highly owned players in the game, has a fantastic opening fixture run and looked great captaincy options for several opening weeks after the first 5. People are opting to go with Anthony Gordon as a double up alongside Alexander Isak. You could opt for this position to be Nkunku or Eze, who also have decent ownership, but Gordon is the one who is most popular at the moment. Then with the Haaland money not being needing to be invested up front, people are opting to go with both Phil Foden and Cole Palmer. Son and Saka have decent ownership, but it is Foden and Palmer at 9.5 and 10.5 who are the most popular options at the moment. Then you have a 4.5 million option on the bench, which is currently Harry Winks. This draft does have 0.5 million spare in the bank, so if you wanted to upgrade one of your defenders to a Munoz or Crystal Palace, or you want to do Winks up to someone like a Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa, that is something I would do. But at the moment, it's not really. People are, choosing here and where to spend that last 0.5. You could upgrade a defender. You could go Pickford in goal. You could upgrade Winks. You could upgrade Harwood Bellis. So generally, this is the template and you can choose where to spend that final 0.5 million. And then up front, it is very consistent. We're going with Watkins and Isak, and then it is João Pedro as an enabler. Of course, João Pedro didn't travel on pre-season with Brighton, so keep an eye on that if he is in your draft at the moment. So this is the non-Haaland template at the moment. Let me talk you through about what I like about it and what I don't like about it. It is very strong. It is, and that is a reason we're going to form a template, because you have players. The 4.5 rotating defenders offer very nice value. Because of the bonus point changes, it doesn't really matter what 4.5 goalkeeper you're going to go with. A lot of them will end up on very similar points at the end of the season. Salah offers good captaincy options. That rotates nicely alongside Phil Foden and Cole Palmer as well. Watkins and Isak have great opening fixtures apart from the Arsenal fixture for Watkins in game week 2. And João Pedro is really nice as well as a cheap option. The draft is really, really nice. Of course, the big thing missing here is Erling Haaland. And if you fancy that you can get to the captaincy rotation without him, then I don't think he's worth the 15 million. And I've spoken about that before. It's a really solid draft. There aren't major places at the moment I think I'd go and change. Potentially João Pedro, if you could upgrade him to a Chris Wood, spending that 0.5 million in the bank and getting Rodgers as your option on the bench instead of Winks to rotate with the likes of João Pedro, with the likes of Anthony Gordon, with your 4.5 defenders is probably what I would change. But it is looking very strong, and some of these ownerships are starting to get pretty high. So, having a look at how the draft and the template changes when you start to add Erling Haaland in there. The big change that people are doing when they're adding Erling Haaland into the drafts is they are replacing Ollie Watkins. He is the most expensive out of the Watkins, Isak, João Pedro front line, and it is the easiest way to go and get him in. Isak feels almost essential with the opening fixtures, and then João Pedro is such a good enabler. But of course, in order to do that Watkins up to Erling Haaland move, you have to free up a bit of money. Generally, the defense and the goalkeeper does stay the same, but the two big downgrades that people are making are selling Phil Foden and Cole Palmer, not having that sort of high mid-price premium that we've got in the likes of Saka, Foden, Palmer, and downgrading them to Eze and Nkunku. Now, of course, if Eze does move to go to Manchester City, which is being rumoured at the moment, then that will change. But generally, that is the big change that we've got. Now, this draft does actually leave 1 million in the bank because there's a lot of different places that people are deciding to spend that 1 million spare that it does create when you do these transfers. Again, Winks up to someone like a Rodgers, Konza up to someone like a Pedro Porro are the key changes that you're looking. You could also do Gvardiol up to someone like a Trent as well. But the first draft has 0.5 in the bank. This one has 1 million in the bank because there are little ways that you could potentially change it here and where, depending on what you fancy. But generally, there are three big differences between the two templates that we've got forming at the moment. The first one is Erling Haaland alongside Eze and Nkunku. The second one is going with Watkins alongside Phil Foden and Cole Palmer as well. So just to have a look at those differences, those key transfers that people are looking to make. Of course, there might be things that you are deciding to change, you don't love, you're going elsewhere. But in terms of ownership and the way that people are building their drafts at the moment, we have two templates, one with Haaland and one without. That, of course, allows those big changes. So as we said, Erling Haaland to Watkins, Nkunku up to Cole Palmer, and Eze up to Phil Foden, or the reverse that we've got there. It really, for me, comes down to that captaincy in game week 2. If you think I'm massively scared of not having Haaland in that game week 2 fixture, then yes, you probably want to find a way to build a draft with Erling Haaland in. However, if you'll be happy to captain someone like a Cole Palmer, someone like a Phil Foden, someone like a Mo Salah with decent fixtures in game week 2, of course, not quite as good as having Haaland, then I don't think it's necessarily worth going with him. What I did is I put those three different players, those combinations, into the Fantasy Football Scout Rate My Tool predicted points that you can check out with the link in the description. We had a look at what they're predicted to do. And as we said, it comes down to that game week 2 fixture. Over the first 2 game weeks, you are expected to get more points by going with Erling Haaland, Nkunku and Eze by only 2 points, but a lot of that is because we are expecting a big haul for Erling Haaland against Ipswich in game week 2. However, if you extend that out to the first 6 game weeks, Haaland isn't predicted to be worth the money. you start to see the options with Watkins, Palmer and Foden outscore the Haaland options by almost 15 points, over 10 points difference over the first 6 weeks, despite being behind over the first 2 weeks. So it really does boil down to whether you think that Haaland captaincy in game week 2 against Ipswich is worth sacrificing the players on the right. And based on the 5 free transfers and us wanting to roll transfers as much as possible at the start of the season, I do think now my latest draft that will be out on Friday doesn't have Erling Haaland in it anymore. And I am opting for the Watkins sort of Foden route that we've got on the right hand side. Let me know in the comments, which do you think is better? Do you agree with the predicted points that the Haaland fear is just based off that Ipswich fixture and generally building your team for the long term, you're better off going without him? Let me know which of the drafts you are looking at the moment. Any players that are really thinking you should own, like a Son, like a Saka, even a Havertz, that aren't in the drafts that we've got up here at the moment. Drop it all in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the state of FPL. The pricing of Erling Haaland has definitely done a good thing in terms of the template and it not being nearly as strong, right? We have players up at 50-60% ownership, but we don't have anyone more than that at the moment, which means they've done a pretty good job in terms of pricing. Apart from a few anomalies, maybe Watkins should have been 0.5 more, maybe Isak should have been 0.5 more, maybe Nkunku is slightly too cheap, but generally the pricing has been good because it does create a disparity that we haven't got one crazy template forming already with 3 weeks to go until the start of the season. Now, preseason form might change things. We might get an injury to someone, which will massively change the way that we're building our squads. But at the moment, it doesn't force our hand either way. And it's up to you about whether you think Erling Haaland is worth it. So let me know all of that in the comment section down below. 1,000 likes is the aim on these videos. There will be a video back every day this week. And my updated draft will be out for you all on Friday as well. So make sure you subscribe to get a reminder when that does go live. And I'll be back again very soon.